What's up, guys? SirAllAboutMusic here, bringing you a review for Alice in Chains' debut release, Facelift, released in 1990. I'm back. I should be back for good. Yeah, that doesn't matter though, because we're here to deal with Grunge Month, of course, and with the Alice in Chains discography. So let's get right into Facelift. And the first thing I want to say about Facelift is that it's not. This actually ties into grunge in general. When you look at all these grunge bands, no two grunge bands really sound alike, especially out of the big four. The big four, each of those bands has a totally different sound, and grunge really is more of a umbrella label for bands that came out of Seattle in the early 90s, and that's really what that label is there for. There are some parallels between the bands. But as far as individual sounds go, these bands are incredibly unique among the style itself. And Alice in Chains is definitely the most metal out of all four of those. And Facelift is more of a metal album than a grunge album. A lot of the riffs have parallels to other metal bands that were around at that time. GNR, Extreme, two examples. The song Sunshine off this album, after that bluesy intro, the riff that comes in, it sounds very GNR to me. And I Know Something, that sounds a lot like Extreme to me. That's just my opinion though. But as far as the riffage goes, there's a lot of parallels to other metal bands that were around at that time. And for this tour, Alice in Chains went and opened for a lot of other metal bands. So, and that kind of influence carries through most of their work, but Facelift is really the most metal driven, and it's a little cleaner, it's a little brighter than Dirt, than Alice in Chains, than Jar of Flies. It doesn't have the moody quality, the darkness to it that Dirt has. It doesn't have the grunginess to it that Dirt has. It's just they haven't quite reached what I think is their best period. That being said, this isn't a typical take on metal. A lot of the songs are a lot slower than you would usually expect from metal songs, especially when we're talking about GNR or Extreme, those kinds of parallels. They're a lot slower. And as always, the really defining thing of the sound of this album are Layne's vocals. His vocals are just, he's got that's really gravelly voice, and the vocal melodies that he picks are at a lower range. There's a lot more tension because he slurs his melodies. He uses a lot of bends in his melodies. He builds a lot of tension with his choice of vocal melodies, and that characteristic is really what grounds the originality of the album, not so much the music or especially the solos. So their later work ends up being a lot dirtier, a lot darker, a lot grungier, but Facelift is a good album in its own right. A couple of my stickler points with this is that it doesn't have the dynamic quality of Alice in Chains' later work. It gets stagnant a lot within the songs itself, and within the flow of the album, it sometimes reaches these plateaus that just kind of stretch on for maybe 2 or 3 songs, and that's a little disappointing. But it's not to be expected from a debut album. And the songs themselves can sometimes drag on a little, and that lends to the plateauing of the flow of the album. And when it comes to the solos, some of these solos are a little self-indulgent. They really don't seem to go anywhere. Cantrell really doesn't have his phrasing down, it sounds like, and they just don't sound as developed, as meshed out as they could be. That being said, they're still pretty damn good solos on this album. And the final point I want to make is how many different like musical influences are put on this album. Obviously, there's a lot of blues influence. There's a little bit of funk touch, and that's where the Extreme parallels come in. But overall, as far as influences go, Facelift is a pretty dynamic album as far as that is concerned. So, Facelift for me is maybe my second or third favorite AIC album, and I can definitely land it with a good 6, a nice solid 6. They just have better work. So that's all I gotta say about Facelift. SirAllAboutMusic. Comment in the comment section below. I'll see you guys later.